When Jimin accidentally injures Taehyung's eye during rehearsal, tensions explode. Jungkook's shocking reaction changes everything they thought they knew. "You hit his eye, Jimin. He's bleeding." The studio lights buzzed overhead, but they couldn't drown out the rising panic. Time fractured like glass. In the center of the mirrored rehearsal room, Taehyung had dropped to one knee, his hand clutched over his left eye, blood seeping between his fingers. The scent of sweat, metal, and copper filled the air. The music had stopped mid-beat, but Jimin still stood frozen in his last position, his hand outstretched, the choreography's final spin gone wrong. His breathing hitched as his fingers trembled in the space where Taehyung had just been. Taehyung didn't scream. That silence was worse. Jungkook was the first to move. Shoes squeaked sharply against the polished floor as he bolted forward, skidding to Taehyung's side. "Hyung, hey Taehyung, look at me," he said, voice cracked but controlled. His hand cupped the back of Taehyung's neck with surprising gentleness. "Let me see it. You need to let me see it." Taehyung's lashes fluttered. There was fear in them. Confusion, pain. "Don't touch it," Jimin gasped, his voice hoarse like it had been pulled from a nightmare. "I didn't mean to," he stepped in. "He wasn't supposed to." "You weren't supposed to spin that fast," someone shouted from the edge of the room, one of the junior choreographers, wide-eyed and panicked. "I followed the beat." Jimin's voice cracked this time, rising, unraveling. But no one was looking at him now. All eyes were on Taehyung's hand, slick and red. His fingers moved slowly, revealing swollen skin under the brow, and a thin, messy gash that cut too close to the sclera. The light caught the moisture in his lashes, the blood that dripped down his cheek. "Call the manager." Jungkook ordered someone behind him without breaking eye contact with Taehyung. "Call a damn ambulance." But no one moved. The room was locked in suspended breath until Jimin staggered back, hitting the mirror with the soft thud of skin on glass. The reflection shattered the illusion of control. His own face stared back at him, pale, contorted, his eyes already brimming with something heavier than guilt. It was fear. The fear of what this meant. The fear of what they all were too afraid to say, Taehyung's vision, his career, their trust. Jungkook stood again, now with red smeared on his sleeve, and turned to face Jimin. His stare wasn't angry, it wasn't cold. It was worse, it was unreadable. "Get out." The words hit harder than any scream. Jimin didn't move. His lips parted but no sound came. "I said," Jungkook repeated, walking toward him now, shoulders squared, jaw tight. "Get out." And this time, Jimin obeyed. Each step he took away from the mirror, from the blood, from Jungkook, was heavier than the last. His breath came in shallow gasps. His limbs felt like they no longer belonged to him. Outside, the hallway was darker, colder. He slumped against the wall, the walls of the studio muffling the chaos inside. He looked down at his hands shaking, stained with red, and he remembered the look in Taehyung's eye before it closed in pain. Jimin didn't cry. Not yet. Inside, Jungkook had knelt again beside Taehyung, his expression softening only when he saw the older man's fingers curl around his wrist. "I'm okay," Taehyung whispered through clenched teeth. But Jungkook knew he was lying. Everything had changed. In one careless second, a spin meant to wow the crowd had drawn blood instead. But it wasn't just the injury. It was what it ripped open beneath the surface, the unspoken fears, the unbalanced loyalties, the pressure that twisted even love into something sharp. And as the sirens began to wail in the distance, Jimin pressed his back harder against the wall and closed his eyes. He didn't know what scared him more, that he'd hurt Taehyung, or that Jungkook might never forgive him. The waiting room reeked of antiseptic and silence. Taehyung sat stiffly in the hospital chair, one hand loosely resting on the bandage that now covered most of his left eye. The white gauze wrapped around his head like a war wound, and despite the painkillers, the edge of the sting still licked at his brow. Jungkook sat across from him, elbows on knees, fists clenched, eyes fixed on the cracked floor tile beneath his boots. His hair was damp from the rain they'd walked through. Getting here, he hadn't even thought to bring a hoodie. Neither had said a word for the past 20 minutes. Until Taehyung broke the silence. "You think it's permanent?" Jungkook looked up immediately, the question slicing through him like a blade. "Don't." "I'm serious," Taehyung replied, his tone flat, like he was trying not to feel anything. "What if it is?" "Don't talk like that," Jungkook snapped, standing up now, pacing like a caged animal. "It's a scratch. They said it's a scratch. They said it's too soon to tell. That's because they don't want to freak you out. I'm not freaking out, Jungkook. Taehyung's voice finally lifted, sharp and bitter. You are. Jungkook stopped pacing. His chest rose and fell. His eyes glinted, not with tears, but something harder. Because I watched you go down like someone shot you. Because you covered your eye like it exploded. Because Jimin... Stop. That one word silenced him. Taehyung exhaled, slow, measured, then whispered. It wasn't his fault. But Jungkook only stared at him. And that stare said everything. Back at the dorm, chaos had already ignited. The news had leaked before they even left the hospital. Somehow, a blurry photo of Taehyung being escorted out of the studio with a cloth pressed to his face was already circulating. Army Twitter was imploding. Theories, hashtags. Some fans were blaming Jimin. Others blamed management. And a few conspiracy threads even claimed it was staged for a new concept. Namjoon was already fielding calls from management, from staff, from legal. Jin, furious and red-faced, had kicked the practice room mirror after hearing the news. Yoongi had gone silent, not angry, silent. Which was worse? And Jimin? No one had seen Jimin in hours, until the door clicked open. Jimin stood there, drenched from the same rain, hoodie up, face shadowed, breath caught in his throat. They all turned to look at him. Namjoon, Jin, Yoongi, Hoseok. The tension tightened like a wire. Jimin stepped forward. I want to see him, he said softly. No, Jungkook's voice cut through the room like thunder. He had just returned from the hospital and hadn't even taken off his wet jacket. You're not going in there. Jimin looked straight at him. He's my friend. You nearly blinded him. I didn't mean to. That doesn't change what happened. I need to see him. No. What you need to do is stay away, Jungkook growled. For once in your life, stop making everything about what you want. That line felt like a slap. Jimin's lips parted, but no words came out. Namjoon stepped in. That's enough. Jungkook turned to him, voice still burning. Is it? Because I'm the one who had to clean Taehyung's blood off the floor while he stopped himself. Swallowed the rest. Yoongi finally spoke. Let him in. Everyone turned. He needs to talk to Taehyung, Yoongi said coldly. Whether you like it or not. Jimin didn't wait. He moved past Jungkook, brushing his shoulder. Their arms touched and for a second, something electric passed between them. Not warmth. Something cold, residual, broken. The hospital room was dim, the curtain half drawn. Taehyung looked up as Jimin entered, his good eyes scanning him like a scanner would assess damage. You look like shit, Taehyung said. Jimin almost laughed, but it caught in his throat. You too. Silence. The kind that swallows rooms. I'm sorry, Jimin said. His voice was low, like a confession. I didn't see you move. Taehyung didn't respond at first, just stared at the ceiling. The machines hummed softly beside him. Finally he asked, Did you cry? What? After it happened, did you cry? Jimin lowered his head. No. Taehyung smiled, but it was bitter. Then I forgive you. Jimin's head snapped up. Why? Because it wasn't the mistake that hurt me, Taehyung murmured. It was thinking you wouldn't care. His words landed like a knife in Jimin's gut. Jimin staggered backward, breathless. I care, he whispered. Then stop walking away every time something breaks. Is that what you think I do? You ran. Every time. From me. From the pressure. From Jungkook. That name struck like thunder again. And it hung between them. I didn't mean to, Jimin said, voice shaking. But you did. Taehyung looked at him with that singular eye hollowed out. And now I don't know if anything you say means what it used to. Outside, Jungkook pressed his forehead to the cold glass of the window overlooking the city. He had heard enough. Later that night, in the dorm kitchen, Jungkook stood alone, pouring himself tea with shaking hands. The silence screamed. Then, behind him, the floor creaked. He didn't turn. Jungkook, Jimin's voice said. He didn't move. I know you hate me right now. Still no response. But you need to hear this. Now Jungkook turned, slow. His jaw was tight, his eyes burned. I don't want to hear anything from you. I didn't just hurt Taehyung, Jimin said, voice breaking. I hurt you too. Jungkook blinked, caught off guard. You trusted me to protect him, Jimin continued. To move with him, to sync with him. And I betrayed that. I know. Jungkook stared, face unreadable. I never meant to fail you. The words cracked the room like a whip. Then Jungkook stepped forward, just one step. Not toward forgiveness, not yet, but toward something. I needed you to say that, he said. And then, he walked away. That night, no one slept, and the next morning, the headlines screamed louder. BTS injury on set inside the accident that changed everything. Jimin under fire as Taehyung recovers. What's next for BTS? Fans divided. Who's to blame in BTS rehearsal incident? But none of the headlines captured what had truly broken, and none of them guessed what was still coming. It started with a knock that wasn't supposed to happen. A sharp, deliberate knock at the dorm door at 2:41 a.m., too early for deliveries, too late for emergencies. Jungkook was the one who opened it, still in his sweatpants and hoodie, hair unkempt, barely registering the world beyond his own thoughts. But when the door creaked open, he blinked twice before his mind caught up. Bang Si-hyuk was standing there. No assistant, no manager, no warning. Behind him, the cold soul wind whistled like a curse. Jungkook stepped aside silently, and the man walked in with the heaviness of someone carrying more than news. The rest of the group except Taehyung, still in recovery, assembled quickly in the living room. Even Jimin, especially Jimin. His face was pale, like he knew what was coming but still hoped it wouldn't. Bang PD didn't sit. He paced, slow, thoughtful, then stopped in front of the floor-to-ceiling window that overlooked the city's glowing arteries. His voice, when it came, was colder than the glass he stared through. "There are internal pressures you know about," he said. "And then there are the ones you don't." Nobody moved, not even a breath. "What happened to Taehyung was an accident," he continued, still not facing them. "But the accident exposed something bigger, something rotten." Jimin lowered his gaze. His knuckles whitened against his knees. "You think the public's going to focus on choreography missteps? They're not. They're going to wonder why Jimin's name trends with danger and negligence in the same breath. They're going to ask why Jungkook snapped on camera, why the group didn't release a unified statement, why half of you are hiding." Namjoon finally spoke, trying to anchor the room. "We've already started planning an internal video. Taehyung will speak when he's ready. And Jimin won't speak." Bang cut in, finally turning around. His eyes landed directly on Jimin. "Because Jimin won't be seen for a while." The words didn't just hit the group, they detonated. "What are you saying?" Jin's voice rose before he could stop it. "I'm saying," Bang replied, "that for the sake of the group's stability, Jimin needs to go on an indefinite sabbatical, effective immediately." "No," Jungkook said before even processing the sentence. "No, you can't do that." "It's not a punishment," Bang said calmly, but there was no softness. "It's containment. It's exile," Yoongi muttered under his breath. Jimin finally looked up. His voice trembled, but his words were clear. "If you need me gone, I'll go." Jungkook turned toward him like he'd been stabbed. "Don't you dare agree to that." "I already did," Jimin said. "The second I spun too fast and didn't check the angle. The second I didn't see Taehyung's foot move forward. You're letting them silence you." "No," Jimin corrected. "I'm silencing myself, because I already made enough noise." Bang Si-hyuk gave a final nod and turned to leave. But before he reached the door, he paused. "The media storm will pass, but trust," he looked back. "Once cracked, doesn't mend itself." Then he left. The door clicked behind him with a sound that was too final. The silence afterward felt like smoke in their lungs. Jungkook stood. His face was unreadable, but his eyes glowed with something dangerous. "You're really going to leave?" Jimin stood too. "If it gives Taehyung peace, stop talking about Taehyung like he's the excuse for your guilt." That silenced Jimin. For once, he had no comeback. Jungkook stepped closer. "You think disappearing makes things better? You think if you vanish, it'll undo what happened? You think that's forgiveness?" "No," Jimin said quietly. "But maybe it's the only apology I can give." Jungkook's voice dropped. "Then you never understood us." The room felt like it fractured in two. Namjoon tried to diffuse the moment. "Let's all cool down. Sleep, regroup, talk tomorrow." But Jimin was already grabbing his duffel bag from the hallway. As if this moment had always been inevitable. As if he'd packed it the second Taehyung hit the floor. Nobody moved to stop him. Until Jungkook did. He blocked the door. "Move," Jimin said, jaw tight. Jungkook didn't. "Move. You're not walking out like this. I already did in your eyes. I saw it the second you told me to get out." Jungkook flinched. "You hit him? I know. You broke him. I know. You broke me." Jimin's voice cracked. "I know." For a second, neither of them moved. Then Jungkook whispered something no one else heard. "You never said sorry to me." The words felt like thunder. "I'm sorry," Jimin whispered. I'm sorry I failed you. Then he reached for the door handle, and this time, Jungkook let him pass. Jimin walked out into the cold. For the next 3 days, no one knew where he went. Taehyung returned home on the 4th. The left side of his face was bruised. The eye was covered with a thinner bandage now, and he wore sunglasses to protect against the light. The mood in the dorm was like static charged, restless, uncertain. Everyone waited for something to break. But when Taehyung walked through the door, he didn't look angry. He looked tired. He didn't ask where Jimin was. He didn't speak until hours later when Jungkook entered the room they used to share. Taehyung sat on the bed, plucking at the strings of his guitar in silence. He left, Jungkook said. Taehyung didn't look up. I know. Do you forgive him? Taehyung stopped playing. I don't know if it's about forgiveness, he said. Sometimes pain isn't about blame. Sometimes it's just aftermath. Jungkook sat down beside him. I don't want him gone, Jungkook said, almost inaudibly. Taehyung sighed. Then tell him that, not me. But the days passed, then weeks, and Jimin stayed gone, until the day the handwritten letter arrived, addressed to all of them, in his neat script. Inside, folded in perfect thirds, were only 2 lines. I'm learning how to heal without hurting people first. And if you ever want me back, I'll be better this time. It wasn't a plea. It wasn't a goodbye. It was a scar, and it was still bleeding. The elevator doors opened with a metallic sigh, and Taehyung stepped into the studio building for the first time since the incident. His sunglasses still sat on his face, though the left lens no longer concealed a bandage. The bruising had faded, but the air around him still crackled with the aftershock of everything that had gone wrong. He didn't speak to the staff that passed him in the hallway. Most didn't say anything either, just polite nods, awkward smiles. They were careful with their eyes, careful not to look too long at the one thing they couldn't unsee, him, after Jimin. Inside the practice room, Jungkook stood alone, earbuds in, eyes closed, lost in the metronome click that counted out the rhythm. He moved like a machine, perfect, precise, dangerous in the way a knife could be beautiful if it danced. When he turned and saw Taehyung, he didn't stop. His jaw clenched, his movements sharper, faster, but he didn't break the flow until the final beat fell silent. Then he pulled the earbuds out. You sure you're ready? He asked. Taehyung sat down on the floor beside the mirror wall and removed his sunglasses. His left eye looked mostly healed, but the skin still held a memory of red. That's not what you really want to ask. Jungkook tossed his water bottle onto the bench. Fine. Did you see the article? Taehyung nodded. It had dropped that morning. An anonymous source had leaked that Jimin's sabbatical wasn't voluntary, that the internal tension between members had reached a breaking point, that Jungkook had allegedly threatened to walk if Jimin wasn't removed. Taehyung looked up at him. Did you? Did I what? Say you'd leave. Jungkook didn't answer at first. Then he crouched down, elbows on knees, looking Taehyung directly in the eyes. No, but I wanted to. Why didn't you? Because if I walked, I wouldn't be able to come back. Taehyung nodded slowly. Neither can he. The door slammed open then, and Namjoon entered, holding a tablet, his face a storm of disbelief and fury. He threw the device onto the floor between them. You better explain this, he snapped. On the screen was a leaked voice recording. The audio was muffled, clearly captured from a phone in someone's pocket, but the voices were unmistakable. He spun too fast, he didn't check me. He never does. Always thinks he's above the rules. It was Taehyung. Jimin's reckless. He doesn't care who's behind him, he only sees the spotlight. Silence followed. Jungkook stood up. This is fake. Namjoon looked at Taehyung. Is it? Taehyung didn't move. I never said that. Then who the hell did? Yoongi entered next, phone in hand. It's spliced. I already checked the waveform. Someone used old recordings, probably from training sessions last year. It's AI stitched, cleaned up to sound fresh. Jin followed behind. We're being set up. The question is, by who? Namjoon crouched down, pinching his temple. And why now? The room fell into chaos. Hoseok started listing names of former staff. Jin called the legal team. Yoongi cursed under his breath and left to check the security footage. But Jungkook wasn't looking at any of them. He was staring at the screen. Not at the voice. At the damage it could do. Because it didn't matter that it was fake. The world wouldn't care. The fans wouldn't dissect every waveform. They'd hear anger in Taehyung's tone. They'd hear betrayal. They'd remember the injury. They'd forget everything else. Jungkook left the room. Outside, The hallway buzzed with a different kind of tension. He pulled out his phone and opened his private messages. There were dozens, hundreds, but one sat pinned to the top. Jimin. He tapped it. The last message from a week ago. I'm in Jeju. I'm okay. But I'm scared to come back. Not because of Taehyung, but because of you. He didn't reply. Until now. He typed, come back. We need to talk. All of us. The message sent. No reply. At the same time, across the country, Jimin sat on the edge of a quiet beach cottage, knees to his chest, staring out at a sea that refused to calm. His phone buzzed. He didn't check it at first. He already knew who it was. The tide crashed louder. The wind howled. His heart beat slower. When he finally opened the message, his hands shook. Then he packed his bag. By the next morning, a storm bigger than all of them had already broken online. The hashtag number #ProtectTaehyung trended worldwide. Comments accusing Jimin of being dangerous, arrogant, even abusive flooded every old clip of the group. A fan-edited video surfaced with dramatic music overlaying the moment Taehyung collapsed. People slowed it down frame by frame, drawing arrows, placing blame. Then another video leaked. Not a voice recording this time, CCTV footage. Blurry. No sound. Jimin running out of the studio. Jungkook yelling. Taehyung on the floor. It exploded within minutes. Jimin hadn't even landed in Seoul yet when his name became the #1 trending topic worldwide. He stood inside the airport bathroom stall, gripping the sides of the metal walls, trying not to vomit from the panic rising in his throat. But the phone buzzed again. Another message from Jungkook. Don't read the comments. Come home. So he did. Back at the dorm, the mood was tighter than ever. Namjoon paced. Jin refused to speak. Hoseok sat in front of the TV, cycling through news broadcasts that all repeated the same line. BTS injury gate is the golden age over. When the door opened, no one breathed. Jimin stood there, hoodie up, mask on, eyes tired. Taehyung stood first. Everyone froze. They stared at each other across the room like soldiers who hadn't seen each other since the battlefield. Then Taehyung nodded once. You hungry? Jimin blinked, uncertain. What? I made food. Why? You still eat too fast when you're anxious. You should chew. Jimin laughed. It cracked halfway through. I didn't know if you'd want to see me. I didn't, Taehyung said honestly. But then I realized if I only surround myself with people who never make mistakes, I'll be very lonely. Jimin sat beside him, and for the first time since it all began, the room exhaled. That night, a live stream was scheduled. No scripts, no managers, just the group. 7 chairs, 7 truths, millions of viewers. They went live with no pre-roll, no teaser. Just a black screen that slowly faded into Jungkook sitting center, flanked by Namjoon and Jimin, Taehyung next to him, followed by Yoongi, Jin, and Hoseok. Jungkook looked directly into the camera. What you saw, what you've heard, is not the full story. Jimin followed. I hurt someone I love. I will never run from that. But I won't let a lie define me either. Then Taehyung. I forgive him, because I saw something no video showed. I saw regret. Namjoon leaned in. And for those trying to destroy the bond we've spent our lives building, good luck. Jungkook smiled faintly, then added one last sentence before the screen faded to black. You can't cancel a family. The comments came fast. Tears, apologies, defenses, accusations. But something had shifted. The boys weren't broken. They were bleeding. But they were still standing. It happened the moment the door didn't fully close. Bang Si-hyuk's private office wasn't supposed to echo. But Jungkook's voice did. Then tell me right now who leaked the footage. The silence in the room was deeper than rage. Namjoon stood beside Jungkook, arms crossed, watching the CEO of their empire, the man who had built their careers, guided their legacy, sit with unreadable calm. Behind him, the screen still showed the paused CCTV clip of Jimin running from the studio. It had been watermarked, labeled confidential, stored only in 3 places. And now it had been seen by the entire world. Bang Si-hyuk leaned back in his chair and folded his hands. You want me to accuse someone? No, I want you to name who you already know did it. The man didn't blink. You're angry. I'm done being angry, Jungkook said, eyes dark. Now I want names. Namjoon stepped forward, voice calm but sharp. This didn't come from outside. It was someone inside. We checked timestamps, access logs. That footage was downloaded 37 minutes after the incident. which means it was stolen before we even reached the hospital. Bang Si-hyuk looked between them. Then he tapped the table twice. The door opened, and a young man entered, staff, mid-level, someone who had been around for 2 years but never memorable. His name was Min Jisoo. Camera operations, BTS floor rotation, nondescript. Until now. He walked in slow, his eyes heavy, face pale. Jungkook turned toward him and didn't say a word. Jisoo looked at the ground. I did it. The confession landed like thunder. I didn't know it would get that far, Jisoo added, trembling. I sold it anonymously. I thought it would be used internally, that maybe Hybe would clean up the PR faster if it got out early. I didn't know. You didn't know? Jungkook's voice was low, guttural, terrifying. You didn't know that making the entire world think Jimin was a violent egomaniac would hurt him? I didn't think. You didn't think, period. Jisoo's knees buckled. I'm sorry, please. Namjoon stepped between them before Jungkook got any closer. Bang Si-hyuk spoke next. Min Jisoo has been terminated. Legal action is pending, but you needed to hear it from him, to look him in the eye. Jungkook stared. I don't want to look at him. I want him gone. He walked out without another word. Back at the dorm, Jimin sat alone in the kitchen. A cup of tea steamed in front of him, untouched. He stared at the table. His hair was longer now, the roots darker. Time had passed, but not enough. Taehyung entered. He didn't say anything at first. He sat across from him, opened a bag of tangerines, and started peeling one slowly. You ever think we're cursed? Jimin asked, not looking up. Taehyung laughed once. Daily. Jimin's lips twitched. I got a call from my dad. Taehyung raised an eyebrow. He saw the live stream, said he was proud. Then he asked if I regretted not going into architecture. Taehyung smirked. I regret not going into silence. Jimin chuckled. Then the smile faded. What would you have done if your injury had been permanent? Taehyung thought for a moment. I would have forgiven you sooner. Jimin looked up, because then I'd understand what it meant to lose something, and what it meant for you to carry it. He pushed the tangerine half across the table. Eat. You always forget when you're spiraling. Jungkook entered moments later, his jacket still on, his hair messy from the wind. He stopped when he saw the two of them sitting there, quietly. The normalcy of it hit him like a wave. He walked over, pulled out a chair. And Saturday, we found the mole. Jimin didn't ask who. He didn't have to. Jungkook said it anyway. Jisoo. Camera op. He sold the clip. Taehyung leaned back. What's happening to him? Gone. Fired. Legal's moving. Jimin nodded once. That's not what hurts the most. Jungkook tilted his head. Then what? That someone believed that version of me. Enough to share it, sell it, amplify it. That people out there think I'd actually be that careless, that cold. Jungkook was quiet for a long time. Then he reached into his pocket and slid something across the table. A flash drive. What's this? Jimin asked. Something you forgot you said. Back in 2018. Taehyung's brow furrowed. Jimin plugged it into the dorm laptop. The screen flickered. It was a clip, grainy, but clear. Backstage. The group laughing. Jimin leaned against a mirror, breathless from a prank. Then he spoke. If I ever hurt one of you, really hurt you, I'd quit. On the spot. No stage is worth that. The room went silent. Taehyung looked away first. Jungkook leaned forward, voice raw. That's why it broke me when you left. Because you kept your word. Jimin's hand shook. I'm not asking you to forget it happened, Jungkook said. But I need you to forgive yourself. I don't know how. Start by not running again. Jimin nodded slowly. The next day, they returned to the studio together. Staff whispered, but no one dared approach. They moved through choreography like a wave, not flawless, but unified. Jimin stumbled once. Taehyung caught his arm. Jungkook glanced up and nodded once. A silent rhythm returned. But peace didn't last. Later that week, Hybe announced an emergency press conference. Reporters flooded the hall. Cameras clicked. The company had discovered more leaks, financial this time. Internal documents suggesting pressure from sponsors to distance from volatile members. One name came up more than any other. Jimin. He stood on the sidelines during the announcement, his chest tight, heart hammering. Then Bang Si-hyuk shocked everyone. He walked to the podium, looked directly into the cameras, and said, "Let me be clear. Jimin is not the problem. The only threat to BTS is the people trying to break their bond." It stunned the media. Jimin stood frozen. Afterwards, in a hallway echoing with footsteps and press buzz, Bang Si-hyuk approached him. "You earned that," he said simply. Jimin nodded, voice soft. "Thank you. I didn't say it as a favor," Bang replied. "I said it because it was true." When he left, Jimin stood still for a long time. That night, the group sat on the dorm rooftop under a sky too quiet for everything they'd just endured. Jungkook passed around beer bottles, uncapped but untouched. Jin laid back against the railing. Hoseok scrolled through fan edits on his phone. Then Jimin broke the silence. "I want to perform again." No one responded for a moment. Then Taehyung said, "With us? Only with you." Jungkook looked at him. His eyes didn't soften, but he lifted his bottle in a toast. To not running. The others followed. To not running. And for the first time in months, Jimin didn't feel broken. He felt real. He felt home. The crowd screamed so loudly that the stage floor trembled beneath their feet, but Jimin couldn't hear a single thing. All he heard was the pulse in his throat, the deafening rhythm of doubt, the memory of blood, the image of Taehyung clutching his face on the floor, the sound of Jungkook's voice, "Get out," the taste of exile. "Focus," Namjoon's voice said calmly in his earpiece. "This is our first full group performance in over 2 months. You've done this 1,000 times. Not like this," Jimin thought. Not after the fall. Not after they almost didn't come back. Behind him, Taehyung adjusted his in-ear monitor. Jungkook stood beside him, silently bouncing on the balls of his feet. Calm but unreadable, the red lighting pulsed across their bodies as the intro music began to swell. The camera lights turned from orange to white. They had only seconds before the world watched again. Really watched. Not just through headlines or speculation or AI-edited voice notes, but live, raw, unfiltered. Jimin's mic snapped into place, tight across his cheek. Taehyung looked over. "Don't look like you're about to confess to a crime," he said with a smirk. Jimin exhaled, lips twitching. "I might." "No," Taehyung replied, stepping forward as the curtain began to rise. "You're about to remind them who you are." The roar of the crowd became tsunami, and the song began. They moved in perfect sync. The choreography had been sharpened to a blade's edge. The lighting team hit every cue. Fire lit the back wall during the chorus drop. Taehyung's solo line hit with velvet smoothness. Jungkook's falsetto soared. Then the formation shifted. Jimin stepped forward for his verse. He felt the pressure like a physical weight. His foot slid into position, and he spun once, caught the beat, pivoted into the chorus hook. He didn't miss the step. He didn't stumble. But halfway through the line, he looked to his left and saw a red laser dot on Taehyung's face. It was just a second, a blink. Then it was gone. His breath hitched. His voice faltered. His body stiffened just enough to crack the illusion. After the show, backstage chaos erupted. Staff crowded around them. The security team buzzed on radios. One of the stylists approached Taehyung, whispering something low. "Wait," Jimin said, pulling off his earpiece. Was that what I think it was?" "It was a laser," Jungkook answered sharply. "From the second-tier balcony. During your solo line." Taehyung sat down slowly. "You think it was, what, a fan?" Namjoon shook his head. "More like a troll, or worse." Jimin turned to Jungkook. "Do you think it was aimed at him? Or me?" Jungkook didn't answer. Jimin's heart sank. Jungkook left the room. Outside, cameras flashed like gunfire as they moved from the venue to the waiting vans. Staff shielded them with umbrellas, though it wasn't raining. The air felt heavier than ever. Jungkook didn't speak the entire ride back to the hotel. Neither did Jimin. Not even when they stood side by side in the elevator. Only the quiet hum of electricity between them. Later that night, Taehyung knocked on Jimin's door. "You okay?" he asked. "I should be asking you that. I'm used to threats. You're the one with ghosts in your lungs." Jimin sat on the bed, hands in his lap. "You think I brought this on us?" "No." You hesitated. I remembered. They sat in silence. "You want to know the worst part?" Jimin whispered. "I didn't even freeze because of the laser. I froze because I thought I was about to relive it. The look in your eyes when you were bleeding. The sound of Jungkook telling me to leave." Taehyung looked at him. "You think he hasn't punished himself for that moment every day since?" "I don't know. He never talks to me unless we're on camera." Taehyung stood. "Then maybe you should force the silence to break." He left. Jimin waited until midnight before he knocked on Jungkook's door. No answer. He tried again. Still silence. Then he turned the handle. It wasn't locked. Jungkook sat on the balcony, hood up, wind blowing against his face. His phone sat screen down beside him. He didn't move when Jimin stepped outside. "I didn't bring that laser." "I know," Jungkook replied without looking at him. "Then why won't you look at me?" Jungkook finally turned. His eyes weren't angry. They weren't even cold. They were afraid. "Because if I look at you," he said, voice low, "I'll remember how close I was to losing both of you." Jimin sat across from him. "I never blamed you for being angry. I blamed myself for not stopping it. You didn't cause it. I caused the silence after." Jimin exhaled. "Then let's stop being silent." Jungkook leaned forward. "You think it's that easy? You think I can just unsee what I saw? You think I didn't have nightmares? Taehyung's scream? Your face? My voice telling you to leave? I replayed it every day. You know what scared me most? That I meant it when I said it." "I know," Jimin said softly. "And I forgave you anyway." Jungkook's hands shook. "Because I said worse things to myself that day," Jimin whispered. Jungkook looked at him now, eyes wet. "You came back. You asked me to. I didn't think you would. I didn't think I could face you again. But you did." They sat in silence again, but this time it didn't hurt. When the sun rose, they were still on that balcony, knees pulled to their chests, breath steady. The next day, the agency released an official statement about the laser incident. Security had identified the individual, a solo stan from a rival fandom. They were already in custody. No harm had come to any member. All shows would proceed. But what they didn't announce, what no media covered, was the silent shift that followed. The way Jungkook began standing beside Jimin again during rehearsals. The way Jimin's voice grew stronger, steadier. The way Taehyung laughed more often. And the way the others stopped watching him like he was fragile glass. During the next live broadcast, they performed the same song. Jimin's solo line returned, clean, unshaken. No dot, no freeze, no falter, just fire. And afterward, in the dressing room, Jungkook pulled him into a hug so sudden, so tight, Jimin didn't move at first. "Next time," Jungkook whispered, "if you ever doubt yourself, just remember that I don't." Jimin hugged him back, stronger, longer, and for the first time in months, he allowed himself to believe in his place again. He wasn't the mistake. He was part of the survival. The video was never meant to see daylight. It wasn't part of any documentary, behind the scenes, content, or practice reel. It was personal, recorded in secret, a piece of memory trapped in pixels that should have stayed buried in an old SD card, locked away from cameras and headlines. But it surfaced anyway. The opening frame was grainy, unstable. Then focus sharpened. The video showed a private moment backstage, dated exactly 4 weeks before the accident. Jimin and Jungkook, sitting on the studio floor late at night. No stylists, no managers. Just them, sweat-soaked and emotionally bare. Jimin leaned back against the mirror, breathing hard. "I don't know how much longer I can do this," he said in the video. Jungkook looked over. "What? Perform?" "No, pretend I'm okay." The video ended there. But it was enough. A journalist uploaded it without context, just the caption, "BTS members talk breakdown weeks before injury scandal." The article that followed was brutal. It speculated that Jimin was emotionally unstable, that there was tension brewing long before the accident, that Jungkook knew something and chose silence. The piece painted vulnerability as volatility, brotherhood as secrecy. Within hours, it had over 8 million views. Army split like glass under pressure. Jimin found out through a phone call from Yoongi. No preamble. "It's out." "What is?" "That video, from the old camcorder, the one we thought was deleted." Jimin stood frozen in his room, toothbrush in hand, eyes wide. "What are you talking about?" "They twisted it, made it look like a cry for help, like you were breaking down." "I was," Jimin whispered, "but not like that." He hung up and opened his laptop. There it was, plastered across every platform. The thumbnail was a still of him looking hollow, eyes glassy. The title screamed betrayal. He couldn't breathe. He barely remembered filming it. They had done it as a time capsule, a way to vent without judgment. Jungkook had set the camera down after a brutal rehearsal. They just wanted to talk, to decompress, to be human for once. Now it had been weaponized. The first call came from Namjoon, then Bang Si-hyuk, then legal, then silence. But the worst came later that night, when Jungkook burst into his room unannounced, eyes on fire. "Why didn't you tell me you still had the footage?" he demanded. "I didn't," Jimin replied, stunned. "I didn't know it still existed." You were the last one holding that camcorder. I thought I erased it. Well, someone didn't. Jimin stepped back. You think I leaked it? I don't know what to think. You think I'd humiliate myself like this on purpose? That I'd what? Sabotage my own name? Jungkook's chest heaved. I don't know anymore. That sentence shattered something. Jimin stared at him like a stranger. Then maybe you never did. Jungkook flinched. Don't do that. Do what? Turn this into some victim speech. I'm not playing the victim, Jimin shouted. I'm the one who gets crucified every time something breaks. Because you broke it. Taehyung's voice rang from the hallway. Enough. They both turned. He stepped into the room, calm but severe. I know who leaked it. They froze. It wasn't Jimin, Taehyung said. It was someone from the editing team who backed up the camcorder drive without deleting the temp files. He sold it. For money. And you, he looked directly at Jungkook, owe him an apology. Jungkook's jaw clenched. I was protecting us. No, Taehyung replied. You were projecting your fear. Jimin stepped back, voice cold now. Get out of my room. Jungkook didn't move. I said get out. He walked out slowly, the door slamming behind him. Jimin sat down on the edge of the bed, hands shaking. Taehyung didn't speak. He just sat beside him. You okay? He asked. Jimin shook his head. No. You want to be alone? Jimin nodded. Taehyung left. The next day, Hybe released a statement confirming the leak was external. The employee was fired. Legal action was pending. The company supported all 7 members. They asked for privacy and empathy. But the internet didn't care. Fans began digging up old clips of Jimin, moments where he looked tired, quiet, offbeat. They pieced together a false narrative that he'd been unraveling for months. That the accident was inevitable, that his silence was proof of guilt. It didn't matter how many times the truth came out. The lie was louder. Jimin stopped checking his phone. He stopped going online. He stopped sleeping. Jungkook didn't speak to him for 3 days. Then one night, there was a knock. Jimin didn't answer. The door creaked open anyway. I shouldn't have said what I said, Jungkook began, standing in the dark doorway. I was scared. Jimin didn't look at him. I saw that video and I panicked. I thought, what if you really were breaking down? What if I missed it? What if I failed you? You did, Jimin whispered. Jungkook swallowed. I know. I needed you. I know. I needed you to fight for me. Jungkook's voice cracked. And I didn't. Silence? Then Jimin looked up, eyes full of something more than sadness. Why did you wait this long to say it? Because I couldn't forgive myself. I didn't need your guilt, Jimin said, voice rising. I needed your loyalty. Jungkook walked over, slow, deliberate. I'm not asking you to forgive me, he said. I'm asking you to let me earn it. Jimin didn't reply, but he didn't tell him to leave. That night, they sat on the floor again. No cameras, no lights. Just 2 broken boys trying to stitch something back together with words. I still hear it, Jimin said after a long silence. What? Your voice. That day, when you told me to get out. Jungkook's throat tightened. I never meant it, but you said it. I was scared for Taehyung. And not for me? Jungkook's eyes burned. I was angry at you because I was terrified of losing you. And I didn't know how to hold both emotions at once. I needed you to try. Jungkook reached forward and took Jimin's wrist gently. I'm trying now. Jimin's breath caught. And for the first time in weeks, he didn't pull away. Outside, the world still spun with rumors. The article still trended. The comments still festered. But inside that room, something finally stopped breaking. Something started healing. The studio lights were far too bright. The chairs were too close together. The questions hadn't started yet. But the tension was already crawling like electricity along every wire beneath the floor. The 7 of them sat in a straight line under the gold and white set of Nightline with Taehyung, one of Korea's most watched late-night interviews. Prestigious, national, live. And the producers had warned them twice. No surprises. No personal attacks. No derailments. They were told the segments would be safe, pre-approved. A chance to show unity. To turn the page. That was the promise. But promises don't hold much weight when silence has been festering for too long. Jimin sat second to the left. Taehyung was at the far right. Jungkook was between them, the same way he had always been physically closer to both than emotionally to either. The host, Taehyung, smiled warmly into the camera as the theme music faded out. Tonight, we're joined by global icons, legends of their generation, BTS. And for the first time in months, all 7 are here, unfiltered, together. They bowed. The crowd applauded politely. Seo Kyung's voice lowered, drawing intimacy into the room. Let's begin with something simple. Jimin see, she said gently. How are you, really? It was the question he feared most. Because he didn't know how to answer it without breaking again. He offered a tight smile. Healing. She nodded. Healing from what? From shame, from silence, from the words Jungkook threw like knives, from the look in Taehyung's eye when he couldn't see, from the sound of headlines making his name a synonym for damage. But he didn't say any of that. He only replied, from everything I thought was the end. She turned to Jungkook. And you? I think I stopped breathing that day, he said calmly. And I'm only now learning how to exhale again. Then to Taehyung. You? I think forgiveness is harder when it's yourself you have to forgive. The air shifted. The audience leaned forward. Seo Kyung smiled, but it was sharp now, calculating. And what about trust? She asked. Between all of you, is it intact? Namjoon was the one who answered first. Trust is earned, sometimes lost. But in our case, he glanced at Jimin, at Jungkook, at Taehyung. We're fighting every day to keep it real. Seo Kyung's lips curled slightly. Because from the outside, it seemed like things almost shattered. No one answered, so she pressed harder. Do you think you've all truly spoken honestly since it happened? The question hung like smoke. Yoongi leaned forward. What are you really asking? Seo Kyung looked at Taehyung and asked it. Do you blame Jimin? The room held its breath. Even the camera operator stopped moving. Taehyung blinked slowly, then said, I blame myself. The silence broke like glass. I moved at the wrong time, he continued. I shifted without signaling. I ignored the tempo. And he spun because we always trust each other to be where we're supposed to be. That day I wasn't. Jimin turned slowly to look at him. He hadn't heard that version before. He hadn't let himself imagine it. But it wasn't over. Taehyung inhaled sharply. And there's something else. Namjoon stiffened. No, Taehyung said, gaze forward. I'm tired of holding it. Seo Kyung tilted forward slightly, eyes gleaming. Taehyung turned to face the camera. I lost partial vision in that eye. Jimin's chest collapsed. The room fell into stunned chaos. The studio gasped. The crew murmured. Even Seo Kyung looked momentarily shaken. I didn't say it before because I didn't want to make it worse, Taehyung said quietly. But the doctors confirmed it 2 weeks ago. It's not complete blindness. I can see light, shape, but the sharpness is gone. Jimin stood up, not out of shock but guilt. I need to, he began. No, Taehyung said. Sit. Jimin froze. Taehyung stood too now. You don't run from this, he said, voice steady. Not anymore. Jungkook rose next, as if instinctively following him. This wasn't your fault, Taehyung continued. It was a chain of pressure, of exhaustion, of unspoken fear. And the only reason I'm still standing is because I let go of blaming you. Jimin's voice cracked. But I never stopped blaming myself. I know, Taehyung replied. That's why I'm saying this now. Live, in front of everyone. He turned back to the camera. Let my healing start by clearing his name. Seo Kyung didn't speak. She knew better than to ruin the weight of that silence. After a long moment, the audience applauded. But Jimin couldn't hear it. He only heard the sound of something loosening in his chest. After the broadcast, they returned to the dressing room in silence. Cameras were still rolling backstage for a special feature, but no one stopped to fix their makeup or hair. Inside, Jimin stood alone at the mirror. Taehyung approached him slowly. Why didn't you tell anyone sooner? Jimin whispered. Because I knew it would destroy you. You should have let it. No, Taehyung said, resting a hand on his shoulder. I should have let it free you. Jungkook entered next, his face unreadable, but his voice was clear. I owe you something. Jimin turned. What now? A real apology. Not for the first time, for everything after, for how I handled it, for letting you carry it alone. Jimin looked down. I wasn't alone, but I made you feel like you were. They stood in silence again. Then Jungkook reached out and pulled him into a hug so tight it hurt. I'm not letting go this time, he said. Then don't. Taehyung joined them. Then Namjoon. Then all 7. A human knot of exhaustion, history, pain and survival. Because some families break, others bend, and the strongest ones rebuild. End quote. The envelope came in silence. No doorbell, no manager, no announcement. Just a thick, cream-colored envelope slid under Jimin's studio door while he was out getting coffee. When he returned, he saw it lying there against the wooden floor. The gold stamp of Big Hit HQ Executive A&R Division pressed clean at the corner. He stared at it for a long time before picking it up. He didn't open it right away. Not even when he was seated at his desk, headphones still resting on his collar, fingers trembling above the flap. Something in him already knew what was inside. Not the details, but the weight, the shift, the possible explosion hiding in the words. He finally opened it and read it twice. Then he closed his eyes. It was an offer, a solo deal, not just any solo project, a global headlining campaign, cross-brand partnerships, a full album, a world tour. But the clause at the bottom made his pulse skip. Independent image direction required. Duration of this project mandates limited group participation for a minimum of 9 months. 9 months. 9 months away from BTS. From the studio. From Jungkook. From Taehyung. From the slow, painful rebuilding they'd just begun. Jimin placed the letter face down and stared at the ceiling. He didn't know how to move, how to breathe, how to process what this would mean. He'd been working towards something like this for years, but now that it was real, this specific, this loud, it felt like betrayal in expensive packaging. The first person he told wasn't Jungkook. It was Yoongi. He found him in the production room late at night, hunched over a keyboard, eyes half bloodshot, scribbling chords between sips of cold coffee. "I need your opinion," Jimin said quietly, handing over the letter. Yoongi didn't say anything for a long time. When he finally finished reading, he just leaned back, expression unreadable. "So, you want to leave again?" "It's not like that. That's exactly what it looks like. It's an opportunity. A huge one." "Then take it," Yoongi said, voice flat. "Just like that? You're not asking for my opinion. You're asking for my blessing." Jimin's breath caught. "I don't have the right to give it," Yoongi continued. "You already know what you're going to do. I haven't decided yet." Yoongi stood and walked to the other side of the room, his back to him now. "I just hope you tell Jungkook before someone else does." Jimin nodded, throat tight. "I will." But he didn't, at least not immediately. And that was his first mistake, because Jungkook found out 2 days later from Taehyung. The three of them were in the practice room rehearsing for a live awards show, when Taehyung casually mentioned that the tour was being planned already, that a stylist from the solo division had leaked the concept mood board, that fans had already started theorizing. Jungkook blinked. "What tour?" Taehyung turned slowly. "You didn't know?" Jungkook's jaw clenched. "Know what?" Taehyung realized too late. "Shit." Jungkook turned and walked out without a word. When Jimin reached the hallway, Jungkook was already at the far end, punching the elevator button with so much force the wall shook. "Wait," Jimin called out. "Please." Jungkook spun. "You weren't going to tell me?" "I was." "When? After you left?" "It's not finalized. It's a world tour, Jimin. 9 months. Do you know how long that is in this industry?" "I didn't ask for it." "But you didn't say no." "I was going to." "No, you weren't." The elevator dinged. Neither moved. Jungkook stepped forward slowly, eyes burning with something too painful to name. "You know what hurts the most? It's not that you got the offer. It's that I wasn't the first person you came to. Not after everything." "I didn't want to hurt you," Jimin whispered. "You already did." The doors opened. Jungkook walked in, and this time, Jimin didn't follow. Back at the dorm, the tension broke everything. The air, the rhythm, the silence they had worked so hard to soften was now sharpened again by the idea of distance. Abandonment. Questions that refused to die. That night, Namjoon called a group meeting. Mandatory. They gathered in the living room, Jimin sitting between Jin and Hoseok, eyes heavy. Jungkook across from him, arms crossed, gaze fixed on the floor. Namjoon stood. "You all know what's happening." Silence. "I'm not here to argue for or against anyone's decision, but this," he gestured at the invisible wall between Jimin and Jungkook. "This can't continue. We need to speak." Jin leaned forward. "Say what you're feeling, Jimin." Jimin looked up, throat raw. "I didn't mean to keep it from him." "But you did," Jungkook said sharply. "Because I didn't want to watch you look at me like this again." "Like what?" "Like I'm leaving you." "You are. It's not permanent." "Neither was the injury," Jungkook snapped. "But it changed everything." The room fell still. Taehyung whispered, "He's right." Everyone turned. "You're not wrong to want this," Taehyung said. "But we're not wrong to feel left behind either." Jimin stood. So what then? I just stay? Ignore the biggest opportunity of my career? No, Namjoon replied, but maybe you try being honest about what you're afraid of. I'm afraid, Jimin admitted, voice cracking, that if I go, I'll lose this, again, and if I stay, I'll resent all of you for holding me back. Jungkook stood too now. Then go. Jimin flinched. But don't pretend it's for us, Jungkook added. Say it's for you. Be real. Jimin swallowed hard. It's for me. Then I hope it's worth it. He walked out again. Later that night, Jimin sat alone on the rooftop. Wind slicing through his hoodie. Sky too wide. Regret like cement in his chest. Jungkook appeared behind him, silent, then sat down without a word. They didn't speak for a while. Then Jungkook said, I'm not mad you got the offer. I know. I'm mad you didn't trust me with the choice. Jimin exhaled. I thought you'd try to stop me. I would've, Jungkook admitted, but only because I'd miss you. They both stared at the skyline. I don't know if I'll go, Jimin whispered. Jungkook looked at him. Then don't decide out of guilt. I'm not. Don't do it for me. I won't. They sat in silence again. Then Jungkook reached out, hand brushing against Jimin's. And Jimin didn't pull away. And the flashbulbs outside the press conference hall started exploding an hour before any member even arrived. Reporters gathered in clusters like predators circling the edge of something sacred, hungry for blood, for closure, for a quote that could fracture headlines and dominate algorithms for the next week. This wasn't just a press conference. It was a reckoning. Inside, the white stage was set with 7 minimalist chairs, all arranged in a crescent under blinding spotlights. Each chair bore a nameplate gold embossed, and at the center was a slim rectangular podium with a single microphone. The room held over 200 journalists. Thousands more tuned in live, and not one of them knew what the announcement would be. All they knew was the rumor that one of the members might be stepping away, that a global deal had been offered, that forgiveness had been tested, that Jimin and Jungkook hadn't spoken for days again, that the fracture that began with Taehyung's injury never fully healed. It was all speculation, until the door opened. Jimin entered first. He wore all black, no accessories, no smile, no makeup, just his raw face and the weight of everything behind it. He walked past the reporters without flinching and took his seat silently. Jungkook followed seconds later. His expression was blank, guarded, but his steps hesitated for the briefest moment when he saw Jimin already seated. He sat next to him, and for a moment, neither looked at the other. Taehyung entered next, then Namjoon, Jin, Yoongi, Hoseok. The full 7, united in appearance. But the space between them told a different story. The host walked onto stage, and the room hushed. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. BTS has requested this platform to speak directly and transparently to you. There will be no questions afterward. They will say what needs to be said, and then they will leave. The host stepped away. Silence again, until Jimin stood. He walked slowly to the podium, paused, looked down, then raised his gaze to the world. I want to speak as myself today, he began. Not as a brand, not as a member, not as an idol. His voice cracked slightly. I want to speak as Park Jimin, the person. He exhaled. Months ago, I hurt someone I love. Not on purpose, not maliciously, but carelessly. And that moment, just 1 second of miscalculation, has followed me like a shadow. It changed how I see myself, how others see me. It exposed things that none of us were ready to face. Cameras clicked. Jimin didn't blink. There were rumors that I was unstable, that I was hiding things, that I was leaving the group, and for the first time, I want to confirm one thing. He looked directly at Jungkook now. I almost did. The room gasped. I was offered a world tour, a full solo project, one of the biggest opportunities of my life. And for days, I convinced myself that I could take it without damaging what we have, that I could pause being a brother, a bandmate, a friend, and become something else, something brighter, more independent. But the truth is, I couldn't do it. A pause, because I never stopped being afraid of one thing, that if I left, I wouldn't know how to come back. He turned to the other members, and I realized something even more painful. I had already left emotionally. Long before the contract ever came, I withdrew. I blamed myself. I stopped looking the people I love in the eye, and when Jungkook said he didn't know me anymore, I believed him. Jungkook's expression flickered. Jimin looked back at the crowd. So today, I want to say something clearly, to all of you watching, to everyone who wrote me off, who dissected my pain for content, who turned our mistake into your entertainment. He stepped away from the podium and bowed. A full 90 degrees. I'm not leaving. Gasps again. I'm staying. With them. As us. He turned back toward his seat. But Jungkook stood, walked forward, and met him in the center of the stage.